paying too much to acquire a customer? Coach David here, and welcome back to another episode of Build with a Plan. What we want to do here is, or what I'm doing here is I'm trying to put this podcast out there to help business owners like yourself understand different aspects of the business. I was in your shoes at one point. I got good at doing graphic design, and I built my business into a design and print business, but I really had little idea of how to run a business. I knew how to design, I knew how to market to people, and I had good customer service, so I built a decent little business. But when I burned myself out and I looked to go to sell my business, that's when I realized I had made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I wasn't able to sell my business for very much. I put 25 plus years into this business, and I was hoping that I could get a lot more from that, but that certainly wasn't the case. Mostly because I hadn't built my business the right way. So that's what inspires me to continue to do this podcast on a weekly basis, because I'm hoping to help some of you business owners skip some of the costs that I paid to learn the lessons that I've learned. And it wasn't just that. I've taken the time. I'm a believer in lifelong learning. I continually try to learn different areas of the business that can help myself, but also that I can share with you, the listeners out there. So hopefully that you can, again, avoid paying the price that I paid to get where you're going. Now, I want people to understand that if you build with a plan, if you know where you want to go and you set up the steps, you will get there. Instead of just thinking, this is the plan, this is the dream, I have it in my mind, and don't think about what it is that you're doing. Or so you don't put it down on writing. So today I want to talk about, are you paying too much to acquire a customer? Now, there are two very significant numbers that you need to know in order to be successful. And this is long-term success. And yes, I know that you can get out there and you can be good at what you do and word of mouth, and you can have a somewhat successful business. You can have some financial freedom, and yes, you can get some time freedom from that. But is your business set up the right way? And do you understand your business in such a way that it is actually worth something to somebody else? What I'm trying to do to help business owners understand that they can run their business without being involved in the day-to-day. I want to help business owners get over that hump so they can understand the true freedom, the true meaning of freedom when it comes to financial and time freedom. And those two significant numbers I'm talking about right now is the cost of acquisition, or your CAC. And the second is lifetime value of your customer. Now, a lot of people out there, they may have heard this, especially lifetime value, but maybe, cost of acquisition, maybe, they hear the buzzword here and there. But what does it actually mean? So CAC, or the cost of acquisition, is the total sum of everything that you spend money on to acquire that customer. Now, that could be paid ads, it could be printed material, it could be a sales force, it could be a paid sales funnel, it could be a marketing company that you've employed to do this, it could be an inside sales staff, etc. All these types of things. What is it that you are paying for to acquire a customer? And then, of course, the lifetime value is how much money will you generate, how much revenue will you generate over the lifetime of your typical customer. And this is important to understand. Especially, is it a one-off or is it a reoccurring customer? Those are two very different animals, two different things that you need to consider. So, exactly, what is it? What is the lifetime revenue from your average customer? Is it $100? Is it $1,000? Is it $10,000? Is it $100,000? These are super important numbers to understand And it takes a little bit of time to figure out. But this is the one that's actually easier to do because you can go into your accounting software and you can run a report. And then you run your report, sales from customers. Run that report, see what your average, you can start with weekly or yearly, monthly, whatever it is. You need to see what it is and go, okay, so if monthly I am earning $1,000 from this client and the customer stays on board for 1 year, so that's a $12,000 lifetime value, and then they disappear. Or do you have them hooked in maybe at $50 a month and they stick around for 10 years, right? So that's a $60,000 lifetime value. So this is what you need to understand is what is the lifetime value of your best clients or the clients that you want to go after. This is why it's important to look at your reports and see who are your best clients, what is their lifetime value worth to you. And now you can determine what would be a good for cost of acquisition, right? There's a relationship between these two numbers. So for example, if your lifetime value is $100, you do not want to spend $100 to acquire that client. Now you are net zero, actually you're net negative, because there is a cost to deliver that product or service as well. So a good ratio to look at is try to be a minimum 4 to 1. So $400 to $100. So if your client or your customer brings you an LTV of $400, then $100 is an okay amount to spend to acquire that customer. Obviously, the higher that ratio, the better. But first of all, you need to understand what the ratio is in the first place. Right? So let's just take a quick look. As I was saying, what is the best client? How often are they buying? How long do they stay around for? And figure out what their lifetime value is. And then that is how you can determine your CAC. All right. So let's say that it is $400. Okay. It is $400. Then you could say, well, I can spend $100 up to $100. Of course, you don't want to spend the full $100 if you don't have to, right? So let's look at this. Very simple way to figure out CAC. Okay, all you're doing, let's say you are a tradesperson, you're doing no other active sales except for paid ads, right? So you got to look at what your paid ad is. What is the conversion rate versus the spend on that ad? So if you're spending $100 a week and you're converting one of those clients, that means that it's costing you $100 to acquire that client in that simple model. Just want you to start thinking about it in the simple form, and then you can think about it, a little bit more in depth. Because clearly you need to spend some time talking to that client. Maybe you need to actually go visit that client or that customer at their home if you're a tradesperson. That needs to be factored into your CAC as well. Your time needs to be worth something. You need to look at the greater value of what you are. And I know a lot of business owners out there go, oh, it's only my time. I'd be sitting at home twiddling my thumbs anyways. But no, you need to put a value per hour on your services or your time. And then that needs to be factored in to all different areas of it. I know a lot of business owners that say, you know what, I don't mind delivering this to the customer, or I don't mind, just doing this, when I've got some time at the office. But if you look at it and you go, well, I'm worth $100 an hour, and you drive a half an hour out of your way to deliver something, you need to account for that $50 somewhere, or you really should be thinking about it. Okay? Now, you've got the paid ads, conversions versus the spend equals the CAC. In that simple equation, let's look at it again. So let's say you're paying $100 a week. You get 4 leads, so that costs you $25 a lead, but you only are able to convert one of those 4 into a client/customer. So really the cost to acquire that customer is $100 plus your time. So if you want to really start understanding your business, start understanding how can you be more profitable. These are 2 numbers that you need to fully understand to the best of your knowledge. Cost of acquisition and lifetime value of your customer or client. Now think about this. If your average client is only netting you $100 or even $500 in lifetime value, are those the clients that you want? I guess it depends. What is the CAC on that? If it only costs you $10 to get a $500 client, then that's not so bad. But I'm going to challenge you and think about, is there another target market out there where the LTV is higher, $1,000, $5,000, $50,000? Now this is what you should be looking at. Can you shift your business model a little bit so the LTV is higher? And that's the other thing. Like if your average client is $50,000 for LTV, then you can be in a position to spend more on acquiring that customer. These are things you need to think about. Again, if you don't know what that LTV is, then you don't know what the CAC should be. So my challenge to you this time is to take a look at your LTV of your ideal client or your best clients. Look at that, run the report. You will probably be surprised on where those numbers fall. And then you can figure out at least, at the very least, have a 4-to-1 ratio on CAC versus LTV. But you really have to look at it and see not just the paid ads, like I said. Is there a management fee to your social media manager? What else is involved in that paid ad campaign? It usually isn't just the paid ads, but I was just trying to make it simple so you can understand. Anyway, so I challenge you to find that. If you want to put some comments below or shoot me an email, you can go to yourfsmatrix.com. That's your F as in Frank, S as in Sam, matrix.com. You can connect with us there, make a note below, or follow us on all the socials, Your FS Matrix, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, all those fun avenues. Love to hear from you. Until next time, Coach David out.